Thank you for having me here today. This really is a true honor and a pleasure. I see a lot of faces in this community that I have had many interactions with along this journey and been grateful for many of those interactions and the things that I've learned from the people sitting here right now. So it is truly a humbling honor to get to stand up here and share a little bit of that story and see if maybe you can glean something from it as well. So Skyward, yes, we're building software that powers the aerial robotics network. So what's the aerial robotics network? Well, it's drones. And if basically the way I like to put it is if the transportation revolution that we were experiencing today was trains, Skyward's building the tracks. We're building the digital airspace infrastructure that these robots can join to fly safely over our heads and integrate into our cities and honestly be one of the most empowered technologies we'll see in our lifetimes. And they need a set of rules of the road to follow. They need a set of lanes to join. They need basically all of the things that we kind of take for granted in the other transportation systems that don't exist right now for aerial robotics. And Skyward is filling in that void. And we're working with NASA, amongst others. We're working directly with the FAA. We are honored to be recently invested in by Verizon. Verizon shares our vision of infrastructure for an aerial robotics network, and they're the kind of partner that can scale this idea to truly be, hopefully, a world changer. I know that a lot of people in these realms like to say that, but honestly, my team is pushing forward the next generation of aviation history. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, and we're standing proudly and looking over a horizon that you guys are all going to truly enjoy, I promise. So, if you want to talk more about drones and aerial robotics, you can pull my string, you'll find I'm Teddy Ruxpin, and I'd be happy to geek out with you. All through the drinking that's going to happen after this, I'm told. So I also try not to be too long. I got the company started at the University of Oregon, actually. I was a life flight pilot at the Eugene base, Fire Station 2, if you know Eugene. I was a helicopter pilot there flying for the air ambulance company Life Flight, and decided that I was going to use my GI Bill. I was in the Army for about 9 years. I was going to use my GI Bill to go to the MBA program to basically incubate a business in what I knew was going to be drone technology. I was literally sitting on duty one day in my flight suit reading Wired, and it was June of 2012, and a guy named Chris Anderson, who was the editor-in-chief at the time, wrote an article saying that drones are coming, and really described a vision that I could fully see and I could subscribe to. And there I was. My bio said that I had done this 3 times. I was sitting there thinking about how am I going to do it successfully this time for my 3rd attempt. And I will tell you that all successful entrepreneurs that I've met have one thing in common, actually 2. First one, failure, right? We've all heard that one before. The second one that people don't usually talk about is perseverance through it, right? All the successful entrepreneurs I've met have been informed by their failures and continued to go, right? They weren't knocked down by it, to what you were just talking about. They were investing their lives in things that they believe in, even when it was hard, and sometimes when it failed. So the first thing I decided to do was I had to be starting a business in something that was my expertise, that was something that I was passionate about. I was the kid who, my first word was probably fly or airplane or something like that. I was the kid who in kindergarten said, hey, I'm going to be a pilot, when other kids were saying they're going to be firefighters, And I got the great privilege of getting to be a professional aviator for 17 years, and I fulfilled that dream. And that was a job, really, by the time you get into it for 17 years. And what I was looking for was my life's work. I was trying to determine how I could take that expertise and that passion into something that would actually be something I wanted to invest my time in every day and give my entire soul to. And I found that in this aerial robotics space, and got started in the MBA, and would recommend anybody going into business take the first term of the MBA, and for sure. And it's not to diminish the rest of it at all. There were some excellent mentors, professors. The U of O is a fantastic place to be, and I'd recommend it to anybody. But after about that first term and starting the company, it seemed to have a little bit of traction, and I decided I think I'm going to get out of the MBA and continue down this path a little bit. So that's what actually brought the company up to Portland. So the company was actually originally founded in Eugene, So this is a Eugene venture-backed startup, which we're really proud of. And we are now up here in Portland. And what I really want to share with you today is not the whole story, but really there are some sort of key points that you come to along the way. And I think that's what the fine folks here from OEN asked us to do, was to sort of share some of those key junctions and along the way and some of what we learned from it. And the first thing that I kind of wanted to share that I know was a very, very significant moment along this journey was, I was in that entrepreneurial mode, shaking a lot of your hands, meeting a lot of you, talking to everybody I could in this community about, how you put this project together. How do you put a network together? How do you get the resources you need to make this idea come to reality? I met a guy named Nitin Ray. I don't know if he's here. I don't think so. He's one of the angels in our community, and he had the wisdom to recognize that he didn't know how to help me. And he was sure I needed help. And then what I loved about Nitin and what kind of made him a wise mentor to me from the outset was that humility, right? That one of the things that I've learned along the way, I guess, from this journey and many others is that, you want to discern the advice you're getting. Is it for you or is it for that person that's giving it to you to sort of maybe justify their own decisions in life, or that they, and Nitin clearly came through as the former. He was really thinking about what it was that I needed to learn there, and had the humility to say it wasn't him, And then he handed me off to a bunch of folks in the community, and probably the most important connection, the inflection point, was Diane Freeman from Voyager Capital. And I went into that meeting just thinking that I was going to learn about how you get venture capital behind you. And by the end of it, found out that, I was already in the negotiation with a venture capital firm about seed funding our company, which was a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed getting to the end of that meeting and finding out that I had another one to go to, within a week with Eric Benson from Voyager Capital as well. And what I want to share about, Diane is that she has taken a personal interest in me, and again, along that type of advice, along that type of investment, along that sense of the human connection, that she's really invested in my growth. I say me personally, and that's because we use a lot of terms to talk about growing the teams and everything, but really, I needed an instructor, right? Our team will flow ultimately from the confidence and maturity that eventually I can accomplish to establish that tone and to establish that culture. And then all of the things I've started to now witness really do flow from that. A company is only so many discrete milestones and so many discrete achievements that you can achieve over time, but a culture is completely infinite and evolving at all times, and that is actually the glue of your company. That's what makes it something beyond each of its accomplishments, I think. And before I could even start that work of starting to build that culture, putting in the edifices of it, I'd like to actually think of it as more of like a gardener. A gardener doesn't grow the actual food, just cultivates the space around it to make sure that it's growable. I don't believe I can directly motivate any of my team members, but I can create a context in which they feel self-motivated. In order to build that culture, you need to have a certain amount of presence to it, a certain amount of mindfulness about it, and quite frankly, a bunch of skills that I didn't have. And it was a lot like sort of when I was a kid and I was passionate about aviation, and I thought for sure if I go to the airfields and I hang out with my nose up against the chain link fence enough, then eventually I'll just become a pilot. I know that I'll just become a pilot somewhere. Well, that's not how you become a pilot. That's how it starts, right? You have the passion, you have the drive, you have the energy, you put yourself in the context, you try to put yourself in the culture, you try to emulate it, you try to parrot it, you try to do everything you can, and that's the passion, and that maybe even is the talent that upswells in you, that you can start to express. But in order for it to be focused and to be applied and to actually do something that creates something real in the world, you need a set of skills. You need a set of skills to hone that in. And I would say that I didn't even realize that I was in the same situation as a CEO of my own company. I had sort of run towards the passion of starting Skyward and starting to carve this amazing sort of network in the sky that I could just see, it's right there, and going at it just like I did as a kid wanting to be a pilot, But then running into this fact that, oh my God, nobody's ever taught me how to do this. Like, nobody's actually sat down kind of with the controls like you do in a helicopter and be like, all right, now you try, you know? And that's what it takes. You got to crawl, walk, run. And I just want to say that, you know, meeting Diane wasn't just the beginning of becoming, you know, an institutionally backed tech startup. It was really the beginning of having an instructor in the role that is so fundamental to actually seeing this vision come to fruition, and a skill set that I'd never been trained in. And so I think that, you know, the takeaway from that is I think that I learned to choose those mentors well, I think, along this path. And Diane is sort of the first one that really showed me what I should expect, too. And I will say, just the last thing I'll say about Diane, since a lot of you know her, that the relationship I have with her actually reminds me a lot of the relationship I had with my drill sergeant in the Army. And I mean that with all affection, right? I feel affectionately about my drill sergeant too, when I look back on it now, you know, and the kind of man he made me. But boy, was that a hard 16 weeks in the summer in Kentucky, you know? I feel a lot like that with Diane now, where we've gone through quite a few of those, you know, those sessions that are designed to hone in my skills and nothing else. And the only way you're gonna get that is somebody not pulling punches and willing to let you know where it hurts a little and where you're lacking and where you really need to improve. And then the next thing, and sort of, we'll speak to my next sort of vignette here, is you then have to internalize that and have the humility to grow and recognize the delta that you have to reach and do everything you can to fill in that space with those skills. The second sort of thing I came across as I was thinking about this sort of Wilson theme and how do you get through? How does all of, you know, the great roller coaster of the startup experience, you know, how do you anchor that? How do you find focus? Well, I have kind of an easy answer, I think, but it's my family. I have a 2-year-old daughter named Isla, and I have a 2-month-old son named Arlo now. And that is like literally how old the company is too. If you might notice, like, my 2-year-old daughter kind of arrived right when the company got started. And now Arlo arrived right when we closed our second financing. Literally, I wrote the update to all the investors that we had closed a $4.1 million round, and I wrote that from the delivery room, like on my thumbs. And I was like, all right, good, now I'm gonna take a little paternity leave. So, yeah, the family. I'll give you one anecdote here. And it does speak to, you know, what matters and where do you invest your time and what are your fundamental values here. And we were about 3 weeks out from my wife's due date. This was in early March. And we had one of these opportunities in early startup land that you just, you know, you get wide eyes over, you drool a little, you get excited, you can't believe you're in the real show. And I was invited to fly all the way across the country to meet with, I'll just keep an undisclosed enterprise client. And it was sort of one of those things that I'm looking at my like 28-month pregnant wife and being like, sweetie, I gotta do this. You agree, right? Like, I gotta go, right? And she's sort of, and you know, my wife is truly my Wilson, you know, and I know that's easy to say. So she truly is a rock, and she did kind of give me that permission, but it was clearly in the space of, are you sure you want to do that, right? Are you sure you want to do that? And that's the wisdom of her. She was able to hold up that mirror and ask me, you know, really, where are your values on this right now, right? And my pig-headed, you know, CEO self was like, well, it's in Atlanta. We gotta move out. This is big. We're gonna make the whole world for both these kids. So I was scheduled. I was going. Then we had just one little hiccup, as sort of pregnant women sometimes do towards the end, and nothing serious, but enough to, you know, make us call the doctor and say what's what. And that was like the next day, and it was obvious, right? It was totally obvious. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna look back on my deathbed and say, that's what I should have done. I should have gone to the meeting rather than see my son get born, right? It was very, very clear when I had that contrast. And the reason it was clear is because that gut sense of fundamental value and how you value your time and where you want to invest yourself. And I just knew my heart was, you know, with my family there. And the really cool thing about it is when people talk about work-life balance, I think they often talk about it in this sort of zero-sum game, that there's only so much time in the day, and you've got to cordon off the right amount for work, and then cordon off the right amount of time for your kids and your family. And I don't think it is, because what I learned in this was that there was this amazing opportunity in kind of getting off my high horse to think the CEO's got to hop on that plane and get down there. Right? There was this amazing opportunity, and I'd been in a lot of meetings already. I'd been on a lot of stages already. And now I had this management team that was new to this project and far more capable than I am. My two execs are far more capable than I am. And that was the natural solution. It's like, why don't you two go? And sure enough, they blew them away. They blew them away. And I think I would have gotten in the way, to tell you the truth. I don't think I would have told nearly as lucid a story to this particular audience as my CTO and COO were capable of doing. So that ended up being actually a positive on the work side and a positive on the life side. Now, my son wasn't actually born during the trip, so I wish that had actually been the punchline to the story. But you know, you can only choose your serendipity that often, right? So, but you know, it does register now in the culture that we try to build here at Skyward, where we do value time. We value our time. We value how we choose to invest our time in our lives. And you know, we work with a structure called the Alliance, ultimately, where you know, our team members are in alliance with their own personal goals and professional goals in life with Skyward and what Skyward needs out of that productivity. And we start by asking them, hey, where do you want to end up in this section of your LinkedIn resume while you're with Skyward? What do you want to be by the end of this? You start with us at a marketing level. Do you want to arrive into managing marketers? Do you want to go down a design path? Maybe you want to start moving towards the devs and learn how to code. We start with that question, though, is while you're pursuing your personal goals here and investing your time in this project, what can we do to support that and keep it in alignment with what Skyward needs out of you to produce over that period of time? And another policy that we put in place in terms of valuing that time and carrying that value forward is unlimited paid time off. So imagine that. I know that Netflix and others have kind of made this popular now. You can see that the real big boy companies and everything do it. But I can tell you that fundamentally, at its core, when you treat people with the respect of, hey, I'm choosing to invest my life in this project, so I'm going to give you that time, obviously, because I'm personally invested in it, then you don't need to put restrictions on their time. You don't need to say, well, you need to give me exactly this much time. I can tell you with my team, it's the exact opposite. I need to tell them to quit and have a drink. I need to tell them to stop coming in all weekend. I need to tell them, look, you really need to spend a little more time with your family, or you need to just go for a hike. You need to just, you know, you need to have that yin-yang balance in your own life, and don't become so compulsive about work. That's what happens when you hire a bunch of self-motivated people, right? You don't have to restrict them. So, you know, we honor them, we respect them, and we respect that they value their own time, and they invest their own time in a way that is in alignment with ours. But that's kind of an easy Wilson. I think it would if to say, oh, you know, my family and my work-life balance is somehow how I found my rock. I would give you that as my last piece of advice if you could have my family, I guess. But you can't. So I hope that you have rocks and foundation in all of your own families as well. And I would highly encourage you to cherish and love the loved ones close to you and be present to them when you can. But you all know these lessons on your own anyway. So I will add one sort of life hack, I guess, if nothing else. And this is, when I started to think about the Wilson theme, I thought, what is the one thing in my life that is like that? That is actually through all of these sort of, you know, torrents and ups and downs and great adventure, what has kept me more sustained, I guess, and calm, honestly. And I'm here to share with you. This is the first time I'm saying this in public, so I'm like a little nervous about it. But so I adopted a mindfulness and meditation practice last fall that has truly, truly, truly made a difference. And I can't say that enough. I'm not saying that as like a aspiring Buddhist monk. I'm saying that as somebody who sees it very much now as mental hygiene. Sees it very much like the exercise I do for my body every day. I have to do for my mind as well. And I'm sure that you've all read things about it if you haven't tried your own practice yet, but the big difference that happened to me is that, I started reading about mindfulness and meditation maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I dabbled a little, I tried a little sitting here and there, read a little more Dalai Lama, and I was like, this guy's cool. And, kind of started very half-hearted sort of contemplative life. But then, when it was getting hard, when we're pushing the boulder uphill trying to raise money on Sand Hill Road, which is really, really hard. I mean, getting told no 50 times by some of the smartest people you've ever met that's hard. It gets deep. It gets really, it's soulful. It kind of makes you wonder whether you do have it right, if you do have the stuff. And you can kind of get to like a hard, low spot. And that's right when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try this meditation thing again. And I grabbed an app. Apps work for me. You might see I'm wearing a Fitbit. I lost 30 pounds when I started just paying attention to how much I walked, and I started walking more, right? Well, the same thing with mindfulness and meditation. As soon as I started putting myself into the disciplined practice of it, and I had a sort of game to play every day on my app that's, kind of saying, yeah, you're a good meditator. It was easy to adopt it as a practice and a habit, and now I truly believe a foundational principle in my sense of healthiness. And I've gone a couple days without now and noticed very much. Just like you notice if you don't exercise or something like that. So that is my one sort of, actually takeaway. Try it. Definitely try it. Try it for 10 days. See if it increases your productivity. What it has brought for me, I will say, is clarity, mindfulness, groundedness, and I think the most important thing that I've noticed a shift in is a natural sense of empathy that I try to pursue more. I try more now in my life to seek where people are coming from. And that's what all of business is, right? That's what all of life is. And this practice has helped open up a sort of a new space, a new headspace where I'm much more aware. I think I'm much more aware of where people are coming from, and I think that it's been easier to meet them there then. So, that's my 2 cents on it. It's pretty old technology. It's not Evernote but if you do want the app that I use that caused it to hook for me, it's called Headspace. Can't recommend Headspace enough, and I will do a plug for them right now because I guess that guy's my guru. So now, Skyward, where are we? Skyward is 20 people now, 3 dogs, and we're having a great time down there on Nato Parkway, and we, always happy to have anybody come visit us. And we're also looking for 3 more members to join our team right now. So if you happen to be a pixel perfect front end wizard or an Android guru, please do come find me, and we'll show you what it's like to invest in our time in our work in this project and the great joy that we're all enjoying along the journey. Thanks.